Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you are doing good. Today we'll be looking at an interesting topic, and it's Alzheimer disease. My name is Lasya Adapa, and I'm presenting with my friend Aashika Ramu. And we have been supervised by Dr. Vishal Sinha.
Before we even went on and researched about this topic, we watched a movie called Live Twice, Love Once. This movie helped us understand a lot about this disease, and this made us get interested in doing this topic. So while researching about this topic, I came across a quote that I really loved. And that's the one we presented you with today, which says, though those with Alzheimer's might forget us, we as a society must remember them. You understand why I love this quote so much as we move on with the presentation.
Outline. We'll be looking at some of the key terminologies and define them. Then look at the history of Alzheimer's, and then we'll be looking at how Alzheimer's affects us, what goes wrong if we have Alzheimer's, and then end up by looking at the signs and symptoms, diagnosis, treatment, how you can prevent Alzheimer's, and some myths about Alzheimer's disease. Dementia. To say in simpler terms, dementia is the name for a group of symptoms caused by disorders that affect the brain, which causes them to lack memory and have problems in doing everyday activities. Scientists classify dementia into two types. One where you can treat and it goes away, which is called reversible dementia, and one where you can only slow down the process and you cannot sorry, we can only slow down the process from progressing, which is called progressive dementia.
Now we move on to our main topic, which is the Alzheimer disease. So in simpler terms, this is a progressive disease which kills and attacks your brain cells, and it's marked by cognitive and behavioral impairment, which means it affects processes such as thinking, knowing, and problem solving, which interferes with your social and occupational life. It affects a lot of people, and over 6.08 million people in the United States, with approximately 200,000 being below the age of 65 years. We don't have a proper study of how much dementia has affected Africa, but according to a research done in 2012, prevalence of dementia was 2.76 million, about 50 years, of which the Alzheimer disease accounted for 57.1%. Now we'll move on to the history. In the year 1901, Dr. Alois Alzheimer, who the disease is named after, is a German psychiatrist. He observed his patient, Mrs. Auguste D., at Frankfurt Asylum. She suffered from loss of short-term memory, among other unusual behavioral symptoms. He was very confused due to this. And hence, after her death in the year 1906, he took her brain to the lab to perform some chemical processes such as staining, and hence the term Alzheimer disease was first used in the year 1910.
Basic anatomy. Here we'll be discussing about a bit of science, nothing really much. We'll look at what parts of the body get affected. In our brain, it is a curved part and it is situated on both sides of your brain. It helps in motivation, emotion, learning, and memory. Did you know? Our brain is made up of neurons. Yes, our brain is made up of neurons. Neurons or nerve cells are cells that make up our brain. They carry all the functions that the brain does. The neurons are basically like other body parts. It also has a nucleus and cell and membrane. The cell membrane is very important because it allows things to enter the neuron and exit it. Pathophysiology. Now we'll discuss what goes wrong if we have Alzheimer's disease. As we talked about neurons in the previous slide, they need three processes that keep them alive. They need to communicate with each other, metabolism or chemical changes need to happen, and they must be able to repair themselves if they are damaged. In Alzheimer's disease, there is an accumulation of senile plaques and neurofibrillary tangles. These are proteins that accumulate in the brain and has linked in the formation of Alzheimer's disease. These are the two primary markers that affect our brain, leading us to Alzheimer's disease. We're made up of genes. We get some genes from our mother and some genes from our father. And some genes as APP, which stands for amyloid precursor protein, and some other genes, as shown, lead to Alzheimer's disease. Damage first starts in the hippocampus and then the medial temporal lobe, and then progresses to the cerebral cortex.
Now we'll move on to what causes the disease. The cause of Alzheimer's disease is unknown, but scientists believe that genetic and environmental factors have a role to play. And these are classified into two types, which are the non-modifiable and modifiable. Non-modifiable simply means it's naturally occurring and cannot be stopped, and modifiable means a simple change in your lifestyle can help prevent these. In the non-modifiable, we have advancing age and family history, and the modifiable, we have hypertension and obesity. We have a brain atrophy, and even if you didn't have any knowledge about the Alzheimer's disease, we have a person's brain which has not been affected by the Alzheimer's disease, and a person's brain which has been affected by the Alzheimer's disease. You can clearly see that the person without Alzheimer's, the brain is in very good condition, but the person with Alzheimer's, the hippocampus, and many other parts of the brain have been badly damaged due to this disease. Now we move on to what lets you know that one person has the Alzheimer's disease. So these are classified into 4 stages. The first stage is a preclinical stage. More or less, there are no symptoms in this stage. In the mild stage, you have memory loss or taking longer to complete daily tasks or confusion about the location of familiar places. In the moderate stage, you will have problem recognizing familiar faces or difficulty with language, reading, and writing. And the last stage, or better known as the severe stage, you cannot recognize family or loved ones or communicate effectively.
Diagnosis. There is no way to confirm if a person has Alzheimer's disease until they pass away. After they pass away, a part of their brain is taken to the lab to do a biopsy, to look at how the plaques and tangles are, if they are accumulated or not. However, scientists use studies to look at the brain using things like CT scan, MRI, and PET scan. And doctors ask a few questions to see how the patient's memory is, to diagnose them if they have any signs and symptoms of Alzheimer's disease. Treatment. There's no cure for Alzheimer's disease, but scientists use drugs like donepezil and memantine to halt its progression, which work by modulating neurotransmitters and slow down the progression. Some food types such as carpilagine have been suggested. Finally, family education is important. It is important because it helps us to know about Alzheimer's disease and which will make them understand how people with Alzheimer's behave and react.
Now we move on to what helps us prevent the disease. So physical activity and exercise help prevent the disease. A well-balanced diet such as a Mediterranean diet, and social connections and intellectual activities such as crossword puzzles or sudokus to help keep your brain mentally engaged. Now we move on to the myths or the common misconceptions. Point number 1 is that Alzheimer's disease is not fatal. Fatal simply means causes death, and as my friend said, there is no cure for the Alzheimer's disease, and hence proven to us that Alzheimer's disease is fatal. Point number 2, Alzheimer's disease only affects old people. This is a very common misconception, and through research, we learned that it even affects people of the age 30, 40, and 50. Point number 3, aspartame causes Alzheimer's disease. If you're wondering what aspartame is, it's a food sweetener and it does not cause Alzheimer's disease. Relating to point number 3 is point number 4. Drinking out of aluminum cans or cooking in aluminum pots and pans can lead to the Alzheimer's disease. This is not true. Point number 5. People with Alzheimer's are agitated, violent, and aggressive. Someone's natural character may be that they're violent or aggressive, but not everybody with the Alzheimer's are agitated, violent, or aggressive. Our last and final point for the day, point number 6, states that Alzheimer's symptoms are a normal part of aging. It is normal to forget where you left your car keys or your jacket, but do you think it's normal to forget your family members or communicate effectively? Thank you everyone for watching our presentation. Hope you learned from our presentation and would like to thank the Daisy Care organization and Woodsport for giving us such a lovely opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Aashika and Lasya, for that amazing presentation. I was the one supervising you, and when we started this topic, I felt it was a really difficult topic for grade 8s to do, but I think you've done justice to this presentation, and I'm happy that this afternoon you have been able to present Alzheimer's to the rest of the public. So I don't think there are any questions. I haven't seen any on Facebook, and I haven't seen any on the Zoom platform either. So it was a great experience working with you guys. I hope all those that tuned in today were able to learn something. Tomorrow, we will be having two other presenters where they are going to be talking about rheumatic heart disease and stroke. So those that joined in today, thank you for joining in, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Aashika and Lasya, thank you once again for the presentation.
Welcome.